What's up, homies? Welcome back to another breakdown of the Invincible comic book. There was some good stuff in this one. We're talking about Volume 5, The Facts of Life. There were some fun revelations. There were some private moments that happened, and there were some really good character revelations towards the back of the book as well that I almost skipped out on. I'm glad I didn't.
It's the post-credit scenes.
It was like the post-credit / prologue / epilogue of this book. It was a really good book. This interesting thing about this comic book that I'm like discovering the more and more we read it is it's getting more and more dance.
Before we started, Adam messaged Augustine and I, and you're gonna have to bleep me out, Augustine. I'm sorry.
No one
But Adam
responded.
said-
I was like, oh, I guess no one read it.
we were laughing. We were laughing when we saw it.
Adam said 2 words. No, wait. What was he
I
actually
said 3
Yeah.
because I
He
said
said-
confirmed.
confirmed : invincible. And I feel like that could be talking about 2 things. It could be talking about the fact that your boy Mark loses his virginity in
No
this
longer
comic.
virgin. Yeah.
And it's
Does he, though?
It's yes, they do have sex.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Because he
Yeah.
tells
Confirmed.
William,
He doesn't
tells
admit it to
William
William,
one thing,
but
and I'm like,
I
I'm
think-
pretty sure
I think
y'all
he
did
does.
the little Rambo razzle
think-
tazzle.
well,
You know what I mean?
Actually, you know what? Now that you mention it, I can't see them falling asleep because I remember being in college. I've done that. I was at my girlfriend's or vice versa or whatever, and you'd fall. You know,
Tell
I'm
me
just
more,
saying.
Hector.
I'm just saying. I don't like to kiss and tell. You know, you could still have an adult sleepover without the hanky pankies. But what I'm saying is, right in the middle of this book, there is an
Hide
issue.
the zucchini, baby. You know what I'm saying?
There is an issue 0 right in the middle of this book, and it's this short little recap issue, and we've read one of these before, similar to this before. And this one, Adam, just for a little context, issue number 0 sold for 25 cents. So it was like a jumping on point. It was like trying to get people to be like, okay, catch up to Invincible. We're 20-something issues in. Like, this is what's happening, and we're going to use the framing device of Mark is going to tell Amber, his girlfriend, everything. And it was awesome. It was so sad. It was Mark confronting the trauma that he's gone through and been like, I haven't talked about this out loud yet. I've been so busy with superhero BS. And it reminded me of, and I mentioned this before, the Peter Parker, Mary Jane conversation in Ultimate Spider-Man. That thing where like superheroes are never allowed to do this. Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent and all these characters are never allowed to like tell the people in your life that you love
Right.
that you're a superhero. And this book is already breaking those conventions. It's already, subverting those expectations. So that whole thing was really emotional and sad, and it was a great recap. And then at the end, Amber was like, I love you. Let's do this. Because he was crying. He's like, I'm going to tell you, like, I care about you so much. I'm going to tell you. And she's like, I love you. And he goes, I love you too, Amber. And then they had sex. So if they didn't have sex, I feel like it wouldn't be a good dramatic you know what I mean? To that
It's
very
a good
vulnerable
conclusion.
Yeah.
It was a good
Thank
conclusion
you.
to 2 characters connecting deeply to
But-
Mark actually confronting his trauma and telling somebody about it, which is a big step.
Yes, but
Yeah,
also
so-
what Adam said could also apply to just this book just kicking ass. Like
This
this whole
just
book.
kicked so much ass, dude.
This book
So
slapped like
much
crazy.
ass.
Well,
So-
I think like that moment between those 2 characters. This is for sure. At least I feel like we've gotten the most from Amber in terms of like how much she's been really involved in the story. And we've seen obviously in the past that she was involved because she made the assumption that Mark was like a drug dealer trying to help his mom out and all that stuff. But I feel like this was the most one-on-one time we got to spend with her, and to
Right.
really like let her kind of project her feelings about how she's feeling about this whole situation. And then finally Mark sitting down next to her and saying like, okay, I have to tell you this thing.
Yeah.
And this is very much like, when Superman tells Lois that he's Clark Kent, or she figures it out and then he admits to it. It's like that feeling of like, this like weight just lifted off everybody's shoulders.
Well, she turns from kind of like a jokey sidekick girlfriend into like a fully fleshed out person. And my favorite part of all this is her putting 2 and 2 together when she invites her friend out to eat. That's such a funny scene. It's such a
it was
because you
the
can
same
see
day
like,
that he got in a fight with his dad, and his dad gonna
like
And her
the
friend was
angles.
like, maybe your boyfriend's a superhero. Just kidding. And she's
Just
like,
kidding.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, just
but
kidding.
I
gotta
love
go
the
bite.
way it was drawn. Like all the like, I feel like there's extreme zoom ins that happen, and just like I feel the panic in her face and like all the things connecting in her face just through the drawings. I think Ryan Otley did a really good job of illustrating what a person would really go through
Yeah.
when if they were to realize somebody in their life was a superhero.
In the back of the book, speaking about the writing and the characterization of Amber, in the back of the book, writer Robert Kirkman was like, yeah, after this collection of stories, like more readers definitely liked the character. They may not have even liked her before, but now he's like, I think a few more people do like her as a character. So
Yeah.
it's the same sort of thing with Debbie in the first 3 volumes. Debbie Grayson is like a barely there character, but she's very interesting and very funny. And then this horrible, devastating thing happens. And then it's volume 4 where you're like, oh, Debbie. And she's like a human and she goes through stuff. And she,
Yeah.
you know, and there's more great Debbie stuff in this where she is clearly going through something in her life where she's like, well, I'm going to get a real estate license because I don't have anybody to talk to. And, you know,
Basically,
and you can fly here and you don't see me.
Yeah,
You're my son with superpowers in college.
You haven't seen me in about a month. I'm just like,
Dude,
oh god.
I feel for Debbie because I also know why Mark's avoiding her. Even if he's not explicitly saying it, he's gone through a trauma. Like, it was just great. Adam, what would you say is like the sort of big blockbuster moments in this book, if there were any, in this collection, in this
I mean, the
volume?
revelation for sure was a big one for me. I think also the beginning of the book where Eve shows up and she tells Mark like, I'm out. I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And she's on the verge of telling him like how she feels about him and you know, you really I thought that there was going to be that spark, that moment there. And you know, she kind of goes off and then we see some of her adventures in Africa and stuff, which was really, really cool. But I feel like Eve is Lana Lang to Mark's Clark. And
Interesting.
Okay.
I hate reading this book with you two knuckleheads. But at least at least you know, like at least that's the vibe that I get from this book for the time being.
Just to clarify, why would you make that comparison? The sort of like Lana Lang Clark Kent comparison.
I feel like even though he's with Amber, I feel like she's kind of like I think Eve is like his first love, regardless of the fact that like they don't say that to each other. I feel like those feelings are there. And I feel like we've all felt that of like that first crush of like, I'm too nervous to tell this person that I really care about them. And then you go off and you're with somebody else. And then years later or whatever, you know, you meet back up with that person. You're like, I actually like really cared about you, but I was too afraid to tell you. You're like, ah, I missed out on that opportunity.
And
who knows?
like
I could be saying that and like the rails might go in the other direction.
No. Because I think what you nailed on the head, Adam, is that like Adam, Eve, and Invincible in this, Mark and Eve, they're still really good friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the proof is in this conversation because when she goes, he's like, yeah, you're right. That's what you should be doing. Like, I support you. And she
He's
goes,
fully
wait.
supporting her.
And it feels like it's like mature, you know, young adults in their early 20s, like being real with one another and being like, you're my friend. Like, we're going to be friends no matter what. And we're obviously, you're going to be on a different path in life. And it's great. And then later we see her overseas helping people, you know, with her insane power. She is the most powerful character in this book, hands down.
I think I said this before we started recording. I'm like, yo, she's going to melt some Vultramites by the end of this book.
Interesting.
I hate reading this book.
I feel like I'm quoting is, have you guys seen that red carpet interview a year ago? Ash Crossan, our buddy Ash Crossan. She's talking to Dave Filoni, and she's asking Filoni point blank about would Boba Fett ever return on
Ahsoka
Mandalorian,
and
he goes, interesting. Okay. And I'm like,
that is exactly what's happening here.
Yeah. One real quick thing I want to mention in that issue, the first issue of this collection, which is a great issue, is that Angstrom Lovey's doing his thing. He's talking to the Mahler twins. I have to mention this as a comic book fan. He describes a dimension he found where a virus killed everybody who is male. He's talking about the comic book Y the Last Man. That's what he's referring to. It's not going to be the last time Angstrom Levy in his dimension thing is going to like reference a specific thing. But let's talk about Angstrom for a second. He has a story arc in this. Adam, what did you think of that?
Man, I'm still very fascinated with that character, and I feel like the comic book does a really good job of showing us a lot, but story-wise and like the progression of getting more details out of exactly what's going on, they're doing a really good job of like just giving you little crumbs here and there. And I'm convinced that this man, well, yeah,
What are you convinced about? What are you convinced about?
The intentions of the character, I'm still like, he doesn't want to
They're
kill
questionable.
Mark at the end.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I don't want this blood on my hands, but at the same time,
Well,
then
if
when
you-
he
if
has his
you-
like transformation, he's like freaking out. And I'm just like, what? What
Well,
exactly
that's the
is
thing.
happening here?
He misremembers the events of him causing him to become that brain monster thingy, right? So
Yeah.
we clearly, a page before that, we clearly see him say that he does not want this blood on his hands.
Yep.
And then when he emerges as that brain monster thingy, he is misremembering the fact that he's saying that Invincible caused all of this. And so,
Or Augustine, could it be that he is so like, you know how supervillains in classic Marvel DC stuff, like the Green Goblin or whoever, whenever they have these accidents, it also comes with like madness. Like they also
Yes.
go insane. They deal
Right,
with insanity.
right.
Could it also be that maybe his insanity
It
is
could be.
causing him to be so arrogant that he's like, I can't, like, no, yeah, it's his fault.
his fault, yeah.
Yeah.
When I feel like it was clearly showing him take off his
Oh,
his helmet,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Like he was ready to take it off. So the character is very. I feel like by the end of it, when he takes off, he's like I know how to kill him, and he takes off into another dimension. Mark keeps mentioning that he doesn't have an arch nemesis. I feel like Angstrom is declaring himself Mark's arch nemesis at this point.
Who would you say up to this point in this series, Adam? Who would you put as Mark's archenemy?
Arch enemy?
Yeah.
I mean,
is it Angstrom? Is it his father, Omni-Man? Is it like his science teacher?
I still
Is it-
I still feel like it is Omni-Man,
Okay.
because I think like so
Yeah.
He's
far
the end game.
yeah,
He's the
like
end
so
game.
far those are the biggest stakes because it's the most personal, arch enemy that he has, and it like goes against everything that I think like he thinks, like his life. Omni-Man is his father, and to have this curveball thrown at him, and to think like, well, this is the guy who now wants to like take over our planet, doesn't love my mom, doesn't care what happens to her. Like, this is the ultimate end game. This is what I
Yeah.
have to survive to defend Earth from, or
Rapid-
at least
Okay.
my family from.
Rapid fire. How did you react, Adam, to the bombshells of this is crazy. The first bombshell, Darkwing's sidekick, Darkwing 2, killed people?
That
He's a
was
bad guy?
nuts, man.
Did he murder people?
I feel like this volume had like so many things happen within the
Yeah.
5 or 6 issues that are in this
Yeah.
volume.
That
Like
Mark
a
isn't
lot
really dealing
happens.
with.
Yeah.
Mark is not even really dealing with them.
It's
Second-
like an
second
aside
bombshell.
that you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Who was that person that Robot was talking
Let's
to
get
in the
started.
That
Whoa.
giant, yeah.
All right,
Adam.
What was
all right,
that giant
Krang.
baby monster thingy?
You know,
Do you have any idea?
I mean,
It-
that to me has been the fun part about reading this book, is like from the very, very beginning. I think you guys had read it already, and I hadn't, but I
Yeah.
was like, there's something about Robot. There's some, and even Monster Girl is like, you're acting really funny. You're nervous, and he's like, I'm a
Yeah,
robot. I don't
yeah.
get nervous, and she's like,
Right.
but you're a shady. I know.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah,
see this
yeah.
moment, and I'm like, yo, could this be a character from another timeline? Maybe.
That's a good theory. That's a good
Maybe,
theory.
maybe.
Interesting. Next bombshell.
Interesting.
Next bombshell. Their college classmate Rick Sheridan.
Yeah.
Rick Sheridan gets kidnapped and he gets turned into a reaniman.
Dude,
Right.
what the?
Yeah.
This book is ridiculous.
Okay. Next bombshell. Did you notice any interesting characters at the Galactic Council that Alan the Alien goes to speak at?
Did I notice any interesting characters?
Yeah.
The answer is no, you did not, because Battle Beast was there. He was sitting there, and you did not notice
Wait,
Battle
really?
Beast off to the left. Yeah, bro.
Battle Beast was in the Galactic
Yeah.
Council, yeah.
Boom,
or the
right
Coalition
there.
of Planets.
Right there. See that? See this little dude right there?
Yeah.
That's Battle Beast.
Yeah.
And you missed him. Next bombshell. Alan himself, bro. How did you react?
Right. So let's talk about that bombshell.
First of all, I thought the narration in the beginning, when it switches from Mark to Alan the Alien, I'm like, how is the animated series going to do that? I want them to do it, because I think it'd be hilarious
Yeah.
to have someone like narrating it and being like, okay, and now in space we go back. Oh, there's Alan the Alien. He's doing his thing.
Yep.
And da 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 da. But then when he meets up with his girlfriend, I'm like, oh, this is like nice and wholesome. We get to know Alan.
Yeah.
We get to know a little bit of backstory. I'm like,
We-
he's
we-
kind of like
we
a Jedi. He
definitely-
like can't fall in love and stuff.
Yeah.
We definitely need whoever was the narrator for Star Wars Clone Wars to narrate
Oh
that
my
episode
God,
of Invincible.
100%.
We
But with
now
that same like
join-
comedy cadence, you know?
Just
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, then the moment where he gets like ripped out into space and he just gets the kicked out of him, I was like, is this
Yeah.
the moment
Yeah.
where we say goodbye to this? Because it's so weird to me that I've already attached Seth Rogen to this role so deep, and I read the book, and when Alan shows up, I read it, and I try to do like my best mental Seth Rogen impression that I can do. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't want Seth to die. I don't want Alan to die. And I got super sad, and then he's being put back together, and I'm just like, dude, this is nuts. Like
It's
the way
gnarly.
people get the kicked out of them in this comic book and then like put back together. I'm like, yo, y'all are made out of Play-Doh. Jesus, it's insane.
It is definitely a level of violence hitherto undreamt of in Marvel and DC comics.
Yeah.
Oh, but
it's
it's so good.
It's
I
one
did
of the
just say
things that
hitherto, yeah.
initially you did just say hitherto. It's one of the things that initially kept me reading about the book because I had never seen this level of like gore and violence being it's just put out there as just like a fact.
Well, and I
it's
think-
not necessarily a feature, but it's
Yeah.
like just a fact that if you did get punched that hard, your eye would fall out of your head.
Well, I think the thing that also makes it interesting is like it's what you're talking about, and it's just like the uniqueness of it. Normally, I'd be like, I don't need all this gore and violence, but because this book is so like extreme and kind of wild, and it is a superhero story and all that stuff, and like you were saying, we're kind of not used to seeing that a lot in our comic books. Like when Batman beats up the Joker and he's bleeding, it bleeds like we would bleed. But then you see like how Alan turns out, and I'm like, you're just a big puddle of mush.
I also think I want to highlight again Ryan Ottley, the artist now, and who will remain the artist till the end of the series. Phenomenal artist. There's an aspect of his cartoony style that adds to the violence and makes it kind of bearable, and in a lot of ways makes his cartoony style of violence kind of beautiful as well because of the detail and like how much detail he's putting into the violence and the organs and the blood and the guts and all this other stuff, that if it were other artists that were attempting more of a realistic comic book style, you would really go, okay, that's gratuitous. But because it's kind of cartoony, it's exaggerated in a way, and I think that it makes it like palatable and kind of nice to look at sometimes, which is messed up to say.
Yeah, I think the way Ryan Ottley draws this violence is very unique to his own style, to where it is very graphic and very brutal, but it's not drawn in a way where it grosses you out really.
No.
Well, at least for me.
It's
like,
shocking.
It's more shocking than anything, and it's not something you advertently like turn your eyes from, because I don't know, even though it is graphic and brutal, it is done in a way where it's just like, that's what happens. That's what happens when you mess with the Viltrumites, like your guts come out of your back.
Yeah. Augustine. What was your take on rereading this material?
You know
how
what?
are you feeling about it?
I had forgotten about a lot of this stuff. I had forgotten about the big baby thing, and I'm not going to say what it is. I had forgotten about. I remember the feeling that I got when Alan was ripped out of that restaurant in front of his girlfriend, because that moment was brutal because you didn't expect the Viltrumites to be behind that whatsoever. And this is the first time.
And then they're telling you, Alan's just thinking like, is my girlfriend okay? Did
Yeah.
she survive?
Exactly. He's a nice guy. Like, he's such a nice guy, and you really connect with him at that point, and you feel bad because he's just a puddle of goo in space at that point. I really like the moment with Mark in issue 0. With Mark, just that whole issue really made me connect with Mark on a very human level, because he's feeling he wants to be, well, he could potentially be Omni-Man level strength. He could be a god on this world, but his emotions and him dealing with the level of stress and trauma are very human, and anybody can relate to the things that he's gone to, and talking about issues and trauma and things like that with somebody who, you might not necessarily spend the rest of your life with, but you care deeply about at that moment. And so just all of these things in combination made this, I think, this collection, this volume is where it just, like, issue 13 was great. Omni-Man, beating the crap out of Mark was crazy. But this issue really sinks its teeth into you, and this is where you really buy into the universe, and you're just like, yeah. I'm reading this till the end. This is gonna rock all the way through.
And
It's
those
awesome.
characters,
Rock
they're
my
becoming
nuts
more.
off.
Yep.
They're becoming more fleshed out and more three dimensional.
Yeah.
Each one of these characters, Amber, Debbie, the female Eve, the female characters who up to this point have not been given as much of a spotlight as they could have been, and even Mark himself, like you're saying, Augustine. So to kind of wrap up, we have to talk about those post-credit scenes of the origins. First up,
Those were
Monster
fun.
Girl.
Yeah.
Adam, what'd you think about the Monster Girl origin and seeing her, how she got this curse put on her? It's magic.
Yeah, it was like I was not really expecting it to be that type of a thing. But I think the thing that I liked about the origin stories was, even though we have not been spending a ton of time with those characters right now, I know that obviously those characters are going to continue to be like really important characters throughout the rest of the duration of the story. And whatever happens to those characters, I like the fact that I have this context because I understand them a little bit better, and it makes them feel a little bit more three-dimensional. And if something were to happen to any of them, I'd be like, oh, I feel like there's going to be like a real loss. It's not just, well, it's just another superhero who was like drawn on the page and they're gone and it's fine and I'm not worried about it. But now understanding a little bit of like their lineage and where they came from, how their powers came to be, and some of them having a kind of a rough upbringing, some of them outliving so many people.
Do you now feel for Rexplode?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's the interesting thing that these origin stories do is they paint you the whole picture, and you understand why some of them are the way. I mean, even the Immortal, like I made the joke. I was reading it and I made the joke. I was like, oh, it's Abraham Lincoln, hey Superman. But you think about the fact that like this person has literally the Immortal has lived for decades and decades and decades and decades, and you think about all the loss that this person has had throughout all the years, and you're like, that's got to affect you and weigh on you, and affect how you interact and treat other people, and how you just like live your daily. There was a comment from, I believe it was, I can't remember who said the comment to Robot and said like, Immortal's great, but like you really like led the team. Immortal kind of just does his own thing.
Oh, that was not Black Samson. Who was the other one? Bulletproof after coming out of his coma. Yeah.
And you're just like, this character is just kind of like on their own path, doing their own thing. But like,
it
you
makes
read
sense.
that origin and you're like, this dude's been around for so long. He's lost everything.
Yep.
So it was very
do you
good.
Do you find it strange, Adam, that we got a lot of the Guardians of the Globe, but we didn't get Robot's origin? What's up with that?
Interesting.
That is true. I didn't really think about that.
I didn't think about that either. Duplicate. What did you make of her origin? It was kind of funny, and then it got intense. Like
it was very good. I love, again, the thing I think that like is always impressed me about this book is it sprinkles these seeds and it always pays off. So I'm like, great, where's your brother Paul and what issue is he coming into?
Now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. Okay.
The last origin we get is a young Samantha Eve Wilkins, a young Adam Eve.
That was
with
pretty
her
heartbreaking.
Yeah. So it was like she was a government experiment, but the scientist was like, it failed.
Yeah.
But then they took her and gave her to a family who just lost a child.
Yep.
So she was adopted basically without the family knowing and her knowing until the scientist confronted her when she's a little girl and was like, you can't use your powers.
Yeah.
That's intense, bro.
That's very intense. And like based on the art, you'd like this is a very, very, very young girl. So you think about that, all the things that she's been through, and the fact that she was literally told at such a young age of like, you can't be you, because if you're you, they will cut you open and turn you into a lab rat. So it's like, it's very heartbreaking seeing all those origins. And it's crazy. It's a comic book, and it's one of the best comic books that's really drawn me in emotionally. Like, I'm super invested in the characters. And even a character like Rexplode, who's done a lot of dumb things up to this point, you see his origin story of his like very broken home, and you're like, this is kind of a stereotypical origin story, but it really works for me in the context of this story, and like I feel for the character now. So
I don't want this to be a spoiler because this really is just Hector's personal feelings about this. by the time I finished the series, or where I got to the second to last issue of the series, Rexplode is one of my favorite characters in the entire story. And like,
well, and I don't
that,
doubt
you know,
that just based on
yeah.
that origin, you know, if you kind of follow storytelling, you look at that and you're like, this character's going to have a redemptive arc, and it's probably going to be pretty fucking epic.
Interesting. Okay.
We should change the name of this podcast to
Interesting.
You're lucky we don't do this in the
Dave-
same room.
The Dave Filoni. Yeah, I'd be getting punched. I think it's now time to announce the next book that we're reading. It is not the next volume of Invincible, but instead, listen, Brit was awesome, but how great was it to get back into Invincible? This comic book, once again, bleep me, Augustine. This comic book. It's so good. But we're going to go back to another tie-in. We've been hearing a little bit about him. We've been hearing about his wife through Debbie. So we're going to read Superpatriot, America's Fighting Force is the book. It is a 4-issue series written by Robert Kirkman with art by Cory Walker, the original the original artist on Invincible, so the co-creator of Invincible. Superpatriot, America's Fighting Force. There's a few Superpatriot books out there, but it is America's Fighting Force. Is available digitally. You can probably order a physical copy.
Hector's
There you go,
straining
that's
over
what
there
we're
to
getting.
try to get his camera to like focus and expose properly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But this will be fun. And I
okay.
have no idea where in the Invincible timeline it falls. So once we read it, we'll have to figure it out together.
Yeah,
but we will,
definitely. That'll be
all
fun.
three of us be experiencing this for the first time. Just
Yep.
like Mark experienced love making
For the first
time in his book.
Oh, okay.
With another person, I should say. With another.
Okay.
Okay.
No, but I think the thing that I love about doing the spinoffs too is, I just like with Brit, I love reading the Invincible book, but especially when you get to volumes like this where they're so dense and there's so much happening, I feel like I need to like process it longer, and I really kind of need to sit with it. And I think if I were to go directly into the next volume, I feel like I would be almost like unfulfilled as a reader to not sit on it and to really think about it and to think about everything that's happened. And if there's anything
it's a
I've missed, to go
difference-
back and be like, I want to reread this one page.
It's the difference between the binge all at once model and the we're going to give you one a week Mandalorian
Yeah,
model.
exactly.
Yeah,
Classic
definitely.
television.
Definitely. I think Mando really taught us like to sit with each individual issue.
It's
But that's
super
my thing
important.
too, though, is that I binged the crap out of this book as soon as I started reading it. I just powered through everything. So this is giving me a whole different experience from the first time that I read it as well.
And were you guys stoked to see Donald in this book?
Absolutely.
After reading Brit, I was like, hey, it's Donald. Hey, man.
That was
Absolutely.
That was
Yeah.
probably the most entertaining thing, was to see him, and he's only in there for a couple of pages, but I was like,
Yeah.
the android, I know
Yeah,
all
it's the
about you
android.
now.
Yep.
I know him.
Yeah,
I know him.
it felt very satisfactory. So yeah, it was very, very, very enjoyable. But
Yeah.
guys, let us know in the comments below what you thought about this about this volume. I should say, several issues within this volume. Let us know your favorite moments, some of the highlights for you. I thought it was super, super great. If you want to check out this book and you haven't already, links are as always down below in the description. If you haven't liked the video yet and you liked it, consider liking it. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Check out our Patreon as well that we recently launched. And we'll catch you next week. Another adventure in the world of Invincible.